And we are live. What's going on, YouTube Live? It is your boy, Billy Wroe. Today is Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And you already know if it is Wednesday, you should know what that means. It is time for the Wednesday word. That is Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is breaking the hurt cycle. As always, I like to share what I mean about my topic. So what do I mean by the topic? Breaking the hurt cycle. Really, what I mean when I say breaking the hurt cycle is I feel like sometimes we find ourselves caught in cycles or caught in, I always struggle with this word, cyclical habits that run in cycles. Sometimes we find ourselves caught in these things. And in the midst of being caught in them, we just kind of go into this routine mode where we just follow step one, step two, step three, wash, rinse, repeat. Step one, step two, step three, wash, rinse, repeat. And what that causes for us is these cycles. And in this case, the hurt cycle is a cycle that we get caught in where we may encounter something that hurts us emotionally, maybe even in some sense hurts us physically. And we never take the time to heal from that hurt in order to move forward in a healthier manner. And as they always say, that cliche is hurt people hurt people. And if you're not taking the time to heal once you have been hurt, then the odds of you hurting somebody else probably increase that much more. So tonight, when it comes to the hurt cycle or breaking the hurt cycle, I have three topics or three tools for the first row that I want to share with you, things that I thought about when it came to looking into how I have broken a couple of the hurt cycles in my life, how I work through some of the hurt cycles that I'm still kind of stuck in life. And so hopefully these tools, they've jumped out to me. They're tools that have helped me along the way. Hopefully these tools help you. Hopefully you have pen, paper, ready to take notes. Let's get to it. The very first tool when it comes to breaking the hurt cycle that I thought was important was really establishing self-value. And when I started with that tool, it's because when we have a self-value, what it does is it creates a baseline for us. It creates a space that we know at least where our starting point is at. And kind of in any journey, you need to not only know where you're going. In order to know where you're going or how you're going to get there, you need to know where you're starting from. And so having that self-value baseline gives you a good starting point for where you are at currently in order to get out of the hurt cycle and get to a place of healing. There's a couple things that I wrote here about self-worth and self-value. Really, the major thing that I think self-value does for us as individuals, I know it does it for myself personally, is it helps dictate what we truly believe. When you have a certain value for yourself, a certain worth that you perceive yourself to have, it dictates mentally for you, or for me at least, it dictates for me mentally to know what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not willing to accept. Knowing my worth when it comes to being a father, knowing my worth when it comes to being in a relationship, knowing my worth when it comes to being an employee, knowing my worth when it just comes to being alone and isolated and by myself. All those things dictate to me what my belief is and what I believe. I don't want to say owed, but I believe that I'm worth, and what I'm going to add something to that, what I believe I am worthy of. And so when your self-value is really high, even the extent where some people's self-value may be completely skewed from what reality is, even when it's skewed from what reality is, it doesn't change what that person believes their self-worth is and what they are worthy of. You might have somebody who believes, I'm a princess, or I'm a prince, or I'm a king, or I'm a queen, and they believe that even though they're not making royalty type decisions, but they expect royalty type treatment when they go places. They might be at McDonald's and like, no, you need to greet me with a sir or a ma'am or your majesty when I come out. It dictates what their expectation is. It may not dictate what reality's expectation is, but it dictates what their expectation is of what they should be receiving from the world and what they also should be giving to the world. For me, my self-worth, a lot of that is also tied up into inspiration and helping people and being very pragmatic and solution driven. So because that is a part of my self-worth, I expect for myself to give that to others. And in many cases, I expect myself to give it freely without expectation. And if I do have expectation, then there's some type of contract written into the expectation that I do have. But so that is the very first tool, really establishing a good baseline of self-worth, because once you have that self-worth, it's something that you can always fall back to in order to break a hurt cycle. Because a lot of times we find ourselves kind of in this, I almost said limerence, but really in this fog of losing ourselves because we have been hurt. How many times have you heard a person say in a relationship, I really lost myself in a relationship? Matter of fact, a good friend of mine had posted the other day on their social media about how, I'm finally coming to the place where I know who I am, and my identity of who I truly am is starting to show again after being in these hurtful relationships. Why? Because when we are caught in hurt cycles, when we're caught in that type of turmoil, we tend to lose track of our baseline value. We tend to lose track of our self-value and our worth as an individual entity, and versus what we are defined by with our associations and connections in life. So that's the very first tool. Very important. Establish self-worth. That is the first step in breaking the hurt cycle. The second tool that I came up with is let go of the revenge mentality. Whew. All right. So I'm be moment of honesty, always moments of honesty, but moment of honesty, that is something that I struggle with, because my thing is this is my motto, and I'm really working to shift this motto to a different mantra. But my motto is look, if we're doing something that's positive, there's really the revenge, we'll call it the revenge, in that positive nature is that I want us to be equitable. I don't want you to outgive me, and I don't necessarily want to always outgive you. But if somebody's going to outgive somebody, then I'll be willing to be that person. But when it comes to the negative side, my goal and initiative has always been, oh, you want to do something negative, you want to do something bad, then the revenge mentality says, I got to outdo you. And so it's this constant one up. You outdid me. Okay, well, I got to outdo you again. You outdid me. Well, I got to outdo you again. And that is a toxic behavior to be in, and a toxic mentality to be in. And it typically drives you to a hurt cycle, or it typically keeps you in a hurt cycle if you haven't pulled out of your hurt cycle. And the reason is because when you have a revenge mentality, your mentality is to invest in the negative. And that is where the hurt cycle thrives. The hurt cycle thrives in the negative. When your feelings are hurt, or you feel rejection, or you feel like you're left out, or you just feel lonely, or whatever it may be, when you're feeling those feelings of hurt, that revenge mentality says, oh, I'll show you guys, I'll have a better time without you. I'll show you guys. It's not that you want to have a better time. It's actually that you want to be included. But instead of being included, you're going to invest extra energy, probably extra money, extra effort to go above and beyond to make them regret not including you in their festivities or whatever it may be. However, you're still going to experience the same emptiness the moment that is over, because you did not address the actual issue, the hurt cycle, or the hurt that you were dealing with that drove you to want to do something that you didn't want to do before you were hurt. A couple other things in the hurt cycle really are in the hurt cycle when it comes to letting go of the revenge mentality that I have here is when I say let go of the revenge mentality, it doesn't mean be a doormat. And I say that very frequently. Like, I don't ever mean be a doormat in any situation, because I'm not a doormat personality. You're just not going to walk all over me. However, what it does mean is it means accepting the hurt for what it is, and then deciding to move forward in spite of how you feel. Because if you move forward based on how you feel, that's how you end up throwing celebrations and spending more money trying to fix something that is not fixed monetarily, it's fixed internally. And so when we do invest in that revenge mentality, what happens is it basically, instead of investing in recovering and getting better, it distracts us from healing ourselves, or getting the healing that we need internally, so that we can then have a better self-worth, self-value to stand on, and a better baseline to fall back on when we do find ourselves in situations where we're hurt. Because if you've been hurt once, if you haven't been hurt yet, I promise you there will probably be a point in your life where you experience hurt. And based on wherever that self-value is that you have for yourself, that is more than likely where you will fall back to. And if that self-value is strong and it says, hey, look, material things don't define me. Social activities don't define me. My love, my compassion for humanity and the people that I love and care about, those are the things that define me, and those are the things that mean the most to me. When you fall back to that baseline, you're in a much stronger position to pull out of that hurt, because you glean to the things that actually define you, rather than that hurt story that is something that you are kind of like, making up on your own based on feelings. So that is the second tool, letting go of the revenge mentality. And then the third and the final tool that I came up with when it came to breaking the hurt cycle is find a way to communicate the resolution. And I was just having this conversation with my oldest son yesterday, and I was talking to him about how it doesn't really matter what you're doing in life. Like if you're working at a job, if you're in a relationship, if you're learning to play the piano, if you're, taking a quiz, doesn't matter what you're doing in life. Almost everything, and I can't really think of nothing that doesn't require some form of communication. And even the things that we do alone in our own free time by ourselves in complete isolation on an island with a volleyball named Wilson, even those things require internal communication, internal check-ins with ourselves to find out, hey, how is this resonating with me? Am I really going to try this solution? Am I really going to apply this method? Or am I just going to let it be and just kind of let it fall to the wayside? So that is the third tool, to find a way to communicate resolution. And again, it's not externally, it's internally. And I alluded to this in the previous tool, but it's really about a hurt story, a story that we tell ourselves when we're hurt emotionally, mentally, physically, and the true pain that we're actually experiencing. And so the hurt story can be the furthest thing from the truth. Like the hurt story can be, and this happens quite a bit, especially where I live at now, somebody pulls out of a driveway and cuts you off. You're driving on the road. They pull out in front of you, cut you off, and they slow down. The adrenaline that gets going because your mind is like, oh my God, you almost caused an accident. The hurt story will say, oh, well, you almost caused an accident. You could have cost me my life. I don't know what you're looking at or how where you learned how to drive at, but you need to go back and learn how to drive. That's the hurt story. The pain story is no, I was really concerned about, my life. And I'm also a little bit frustrated that you pulled out in front of me like that. And now you're driving hella slow. That's the true pain. That's the true frustration that's taking place. And so when you find ways to communicate and really communicate the resolution internally, what that does is it allows you to connect with the true pain so that you can address the true issue and get out of that hurt cycle a lot faster versus dealing with this hurt circle or hurt story, running in a circle like a hamster on a wheel, hoping that some of the true pain is in that hurt story so that you can get out of the hurt cycle, which really you got 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And I didn't realize this. And in creating this content, there was something that going back to that concept of hurt people, there was something that a girlfriend that I had told me. And this is years later. She told me this. We were well into adulthood, but we were boyfriend and girlfriend when we were kids. And she tells me, she says, Billy, I had to just kind of forgive you for all the stuff you did as a boyfriend when we were kids, because it really came down to understanding that you didn't know better. Because had you known better, you probably would have done a lot better than what you did in this relationship or in that relationship. And it was really interesting because the truth is I didn't know exactly better, but I had an idea of what better was. But I just thought about the power that she actually got from being able to identify what the true pain was. The true pain is I didn't like the way you treated me when we were together. I did everything to try to be together and make that relationship work. However, not me, her. However, that pain is kind of doesn't disappear, but it's slightly weakened, or the grasp that pain keeps you in a hurt cycle is slightly weakened because of the fact that she's able to say, you know what, we were kids and kids don't typically know what they're doing. So there's a lack of knowledge that you had in how to not only to know how to treat somebody, but how to treat them that way. Once one thing to know, it's another thing to do. So to know how to treat somebody and to actually treat them that way. And so there's a grace that fortunately she has given me because we're still very good friends today. I sometimes wonder how that's the case because I wasn't the best boyfriend. But in that, it's because of the fact that she didn't allow herself to get caught in this hurt cycle. And she really, maybe subconsciously or consciously, communicated a solution that worked for her internally on processing how that relationship was or how our relationship was. The other thing is really it all kind of falls back to that self-value when it comes to finding a way to communicate a resolution. Because if you're able to identify a strong baseline of self-value and you communicate a solution that is within that strong baseline of self-value, then it's easier to pull out of the hurt cycle. However, what typically happens is we get stuck on that hurt story and we say, oh, well, this hurt, so I'm going to really focus on this. And I just had an experience with that this past Sunday, where I had went to a restaurant. I parked crooked, really crooked, like, well, not really crooked, but crooked enough to be in somebody else's parking spot if they wanted to park there. So I come back to my car. I have a note on my car and it says, learn how to park, dipshit. And I'm like, wow, today I'm a dipshit. That's cool. I'm kind of irritated by that. And I had to stop and ask myself, well, what are you irritated by? Well, I was irritated because, number one, I don't feel like I'm a dipshit. But number two, I did not intentionally park in 2 parking spots, because I think that people who do that are jerks. Not that if they intentionally do it, not if they accidentally do it, but there's no way of knowing if they intentionally or accidentally do it. I digress. But the fact that somebody went out of their way to write a note and leave it on my car, and the fact that they felt like no matter all of the good that I've done in life, no matter the good, the bad, and the ugly, the fact that I parked in 2 parking spots at a restaurant that's not even like top of the shelf restaurant, that deemed calling me out of my name. And calling me out of my name, they say sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Calling me out of my name with the knowledge of all the things that I do to try to give back to humanity really hurt. It was like, wow, like I would have rather you just came in the restaurant and said, hey, whose car is this? You double park. My bad. I'll move my car because that's the type of person I am. I didn't mean to double park. Now, if I did mean to double park, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. Have a good day. Looks like you're parking somewhere else. But that's what really hurt. And so I had to deal with that hurt and really fall back to the baseline. Like, this week, you got your last interstation. This week, you got a Wednesday word coming up. You're actually doing things to try to inspire and provoke great thought, great communication, great conversation, and really trying to bring the best out of people. So falling to that baseline allowed me to address, I just kind of hurt that somebody called me out of my name over something as trivial as me parking in 2 parking spots, which is on accident. But I can move past that, because if I don't and I get caught up in the hurt story, then what happens is hurt people. And for me, if you want to call me out of my name, now I got to come and physically challenge you. So we're going to see if you're really about that life, about calling people out of their names to their face and not to their car. And so those are the things, the tools that I came up with, just as far as when it comes to breaking the hurt cycle, really pulling yourself out, in that last tool, pulling yourself out of the hurt cycle by really communicating internally a resolution that works for you. And sometimes you may find that you have to communicate it externally as well, if that hurt cycle involves other people, or it involves you holding a grudge, going back to that revenge mentality. So really quick to go over the 3 tools for you. The first tool was establish self-value. I recommend that you have a baseline of value that comes with you and it is reliant upon you. The second one being let go of the revenge mentality. Invest your energy in healing the situation and healing yourself so that you can get out of the hurt cycle rather than retaliation. And then the third and the final tool being find a way to communicate resolution. And again, the primary person that you need to be concerned about and communicating resolution to is yourself first and foremost. And if there's other people who can follow after that, make sure you clean your house before you go and jump in and try to clean somebody else's house. So those are the 3 tools. I hope you've enjoyed them. As always with the Wednesday Word, I like to share a personal story, something that got me thinking about this particular topic, and kind of got me moving. It's actually a space I'm moving in currently in 2019 and throughout the rest of 2019, maybe throughout the rest of life. We'll see how it goes. But it has to do with really moving out of the hurt that comes, it kind of comes easily within relationships. As you connect with other humans, they are other humans, they're independent. So their mind may think differently than you on certain aspects. And so for me, what I'm looking at right now in 2019 is hearing relationships that I have, hearing what's going on in those relationships through the actions of that relationship, rather than listening to what people say, whether it's good or bad, rather than trying to force it to be something that it's not. I'm simply looking at the interactions for what they are and identifying in the actions, hey, is this something that is hurting me, or is this something that is putting me through a hurt cycle process that I have to process through this hurt cycle and try to break this loop or break this cycle? Or is this something that is this somebody whose actions reassure me about my baseline on who I am and my own self-worth and my own self-value? So when it comes to spending time with people, look, if you want to spend time with me, it's great. We can get on each other's calendar and spend that time. However, if I find that it's like I'm a second or afterthought about the time that you spend with me, then it's not about that revenge mentality. It's not about, oh, well, I'm going to show you and I'm going to spend time with a whole bunch of other people and make you jealous. It's not about that. I just take my step back and do what I want to do. And then, if I have time to spend with you, great. If I don't, I don't. But I allow the same actions that are speaking to me to be the same type of actions that I allow to speak to you. And it's not a tit for tat thing, because if I still want the relationship, then my actions will say, hey, let me communicate to you that I really want to spend more time with you, or I really want to interact with you more often, or I really want this relationship or friendship to grow deeper or have a closer connection. I'll communicate those things. But if not, then I just start taking a foot back and we say, okay, is that a good metric? No, that's not a good balance. Okay, we'll take it back. And I'm not saying, is that a good metric in the sense of, does that change their behavior? I'm asking myself, does that feel better for you? Does that make you feel less hurt? Does that make you feel less pain? Because the reality is that the pain comes from the rejection that I'm experiencing from not having equal equity or equitability. I don't know if that's the right word, in the relationship. So in 2018, I'm literally just taking this step for step by identifying, I know what my value is. I know what I have as a worth. I know what I bring to the table as a friend. I know what I bring to the table as a partner. I know what I bring to the table as a coworker. I know what I bring to the table as an individual in any circumstance. I know those things about myself. So I have a good self-worth baseline. Now it's a matter of keeping myself out of a revenge cycle, because that is something, like I said, I can be petty Betty with the best of them. And so keeping myself in a place that is focused on when I do experience the pain of rejection, which typically it would be for me is a pain of rejection. When I experience that pain, being able to just fall right onto the truth and start working to break that cycle, rather than processing the hurt story and then saying, oh, wait, let me get to the truth, and then moving forward. And then the last thing being, again, I'm communicating solutions to myself. And right now, that solution of just taking a step back and saying, hey, sometimes you don't lead with your face. Sometimes you just stand straight upright and allow life to move in the pace that it needs to move. And if you're not comfortable with that, Billy, and if you're not comfortable with that person watching live or on the replay, then make the solution for yourself to be putting yourself in a position that you are comfortable with. Now, there's times where you should stretch outside your comfort zone. However, stretching outside of your comfort zone should not jeopardize you and putting you into a hurt cycle. Now, granted, anytime you ask a question that can be a yes or a no, you're going to be putting yourself out there to receive rejection. But if you're comfortable with rejection, that is not necessarily outside of your comfort zone. So those are the tools. That is the story. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's Wednesday Word. It's kind of like a lot going on in the mind of Billy Wroe right now, trying to put it all together for you guys week after week. Still a little down that we don't have intersations going for right now, but we will get that back up and running at some point whenever I have the technology to do so. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's Wednesday Word. I look forward to seeing you next week on the first row. The next time we will be live will be Wednesday. That is, I don't know what date that is. That's August something, because August 2nd plus 5, I think. So August 7th. We'll be live on Wednesday, August 7th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Topic pending. I don't have a topic that's really resonating with me just yet, but as soon as I have one, I will put something up on the social media Instagram page for you to be able to see what is coming down the pipeline. Other than that, I thank you guys for tuning in live. Always happy to enjoy and engage with you guys. If you like this video, please share it. If you share it, please like it. I definitely, like I said, love engaging with you guys in the comments and in the chat. So if you're watching via the replay, go ahead and drop us a comment and we'll get back with you guys within the first 7 days of the video being posted. Other than that, thank you again. One love, peace, and God bless.